Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Team B, Brandon and Bill Mack. Sorry for my voice going out. But today, in other news, we're going to do some wrestling news here because there's a bunch of wrestling well, actually, there's quite a few wrestling podcasts I listen to, and there's like two or three that I really, really like, and I always wanted to respond to what they're saying. I could just be a guest on the show. But anyway, today we're going to give you the wrestling news. You know, just like our political shows, but this is going to be the wrestling news show. So it looks like, you know, there's a question out there why WWE only uses old pictures of Goldberg, and the political analysts, the wrestling analysts we're going to use is the Don Tony Kevin Castle show and Solid Monster, two of my favorite at least. And let's see why WWE only uses old pictures of Goldberg, because we know just as much as Don Tony and them know, and we're just going to give our virtual feedback to them, like if we were there with them. And so, you have anything you want to say before we get started, Bill, or we jump right into it?
Let's head right on into it, sir.
All right.
Other than that, tonight on Raw,
Don Tony on our YouTube. That's funny, man. I'm so used to hearing Rachel Mandow or Jimmy Dore. Now I get to hear Don Tony.
We got the 5-on-5s all set as far as, the women, the men, and the tag teams for Survivor Series. It's funny because the big news over the weekend was WWE being seriously concerned about the crowd reaction of Goldberg when he takes on Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series. And I'm saying to myself, you and I had this fucking discussion the night that they announced that Goldberg was coming back to wrestle Brock Lesnar. Now, all of a sudden, it's a big story. But, I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if you've noticed this. I've noticed it all along. I've made some jokes on Twitter about it. It's fucking funny on how every graphic, every photo, every advertisement for Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar, they're using stock photos from 1999 and 2001.
I've noticed that too, Bill. My thing, not Bill Goldberg, but Bill Mack. My thing is, Bill, have you wondered why Goldberg hasn't? You think Goldberg should dye his goatee black like the Undertaker does? You think he should do that?
Well,
that's my question.
Well, I don't think it's relatively. I don't think it's relative for his goatee to be colored is the real issue why they're doing it. I have reasons. My reasons why
that's just a side question. Just a side.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter. That isn't the problem with why they're using stock photos. I don't think because he could have whatever color beard that he wants. That's not the main issue. That's the problem. To me, it doesn't matter what color his beard is. It could be purple.
But
that isn't the real problem with it.
What about the Undertaker dyeing his hair though, just so he look younger? You don't think the young fans will look at Goldberg's gray beard or gray goatee and say, "Man, he's old"? But I agree with the natural look because Kevin Nash did that. But I get what you're saying. But yeah, so you don't think he should die? You just think he should you said it don't matter. Okay.
No, because it's his one last match, dude. He's not going to be making a run. Had this been a run, I might even slightly would say he should, or he might need to. But this is a one and done thing for him, a nostalgia match. I don't think he needs to go different just for that particular thing. He doesn't need to pull an Undertaker. He may not be conscious about that like the Undertaker is.
Yeah, he's like Kevin Nash. Age draws wisdom.
Exactly. Kevin Nash tried it a few times when he come back like Diesel. When he came back as Diesel, he did it, and then he did it a time when he come back when CM Punk was there. But if you notice recently when the NWO at WrestleMania, and now his hair is short and gray. So no reason for him to.
Like late 90s, early 2000s. All of the advertisements, the stock photos, everything advertising Goldberg, they're using old photos. They don't want to use current photos. And I just find it funny. I mean, it's next week.
Well, he doesn't look bad.
He doesn't look bad. Yes, I agree. Why don't they use baby pictures while they're at it? Seriously.
They did that with The Rock and Cena once in a lifetime. The video package, they showed them when they were kids and babies and all that. So, yeah, why not, WWE?
They use Goldberg's high school picture.
Yeah, they show him with the fucking hair. I mean, I don't get it. They're showing photos that are 12, 13, 15 years old. Soon it's kind of like the indies, because the indies, I don't care when they do it with conventions. When they do a wrestling convention, they'll show all of the wrestlers that are going to appear, and they show their stock photos when they were in their prime. But you get a couple of indie shows where they advertise like, oh, like Greg Diamond Valentine's going to wrestle, and they show a photo of him from 1985.
Well, just what he was remembered for. But, yeah, I don't think WWE should use well, I don't really think it matters because Goldberg, he don't look that much different other than the gray goatee, So I think it's okay to use old pictures of Goldberg, I guess, in a marketing sense. But at the same time, it's kind of, they don't have, I think they would use new videos and images of Goldberg if they had it. All they have is a WWE game, where they show Goldberg, right?
Yeah, I just feel that what to me is just the fact that they're doing it is because they want the fans like you and me, because that's the majority of the ones that watch wrestling other than kids. They want to remember as Goldberg as he was back then. Goldberg now, even though Goldberg does a lot more cardio, does lift weights, he's not the same size as far as being big wise as he was Goldberg then. So when they want to push something epic as a Brock versus Goldberg match, they don't have a lot of footage of Goldberg. Basically, you've noticed he's wore jackets, heavy shirts when he's been in the ring. He hasn't worn, taken off his shirt once. You haven't seen him with a tank top on because Goldberg now is smaller than he was, which he's 49 years old. He's not big, he's not young like he was 12 years ago. So
I've seen a couple of photos. If you go to TMZ and Goldberg, you'll see him wearing the gym shirt.
Yeah, but I'm saying as far as WWE with their, they like to create their own world. Whatever nobody else has, they don't use that. But I think Goldberg,
hold on.
That's why.
Okay, well, you remember when he speared Rusev and Jack the Hammer Rusev? He was just wearing his shirt then, but you could tell he was smaller, a little bit smaller, but still in good shape. But I don't think it matters when they have, quote, vanilla midgets wrestle. I mean, I know it's a bad thing to say, but I think Vince is like, it don't matter. It's all about the payday. They're going to paint their own world, like you said. And at the end of the day, when it comes to the pay-per-view, some people might be surprised. They'll be like, well, I thought Goldberg was in better shape than that, blah, blah, blah. But, hey, we already paid for it. We already paid our $9.99. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
But anyway, Bill, I was watching SmackDown last week, SmackDown Live, rather. And, man, they announced that Shane McMahon is going to be involved in the 5-on-5 Raw versus SmackDown Live match. And I was kind of surprised by that. Shane, I guess he just loves wrestling. He loves getting in that ring and showing off and all that. Let's see what DT had to say, and then we're going to see what we have to say about it. And we're going to reflect off of this.
I watched SmackDown early this morning, and my only take from SmackDown that I really have any issue with is Shane McMahon being into the Survivor Series match. As a wrestling fan,
okay, he's got issue with it. Let's see why.
Do I have a problem with Shane McMahon being on Team SmackDown? No. I like Shane McMahon. He's one of the most popular people in WWE. I enjoy seeing Shane McMahon. Why not? But when you look at the whole storyline of Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon giving people opportunities, why the fuck is Shane McMahon in this match? Why the fuck would Daniel Bryan choose Shane McMahon?
Well, that makes sense. I get it, though, in storyline. Well, it's because Shane McMahon's a fucking star. because they say, why is Nikki Bella the captain? I like, because she's a fucking star. That's why. Even I'm just saying, I'm just playing devil advocate here. I prefer, but he's right. They should use somebody new, but at the same time, it's star power. But they don't need star power because the main event is Survivor Series is sold on Goldberg versus Brock. That's what it's sold on. So it really doesn't matter, who they put on those 5-on-5s. Yeah. So they should put up and coming guys because they already got the main event sold, right? Right.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway.
How's about putting Luke Harper in that match? How's about putting other people in that match? I don't want to necessarily say James Ellsworth should have been in there, but they could have did simple qualifying.
Well, at the time of this, maybe DT didn't notice at the time, but James Ellsworth is the coach of the team now.
Match storyline. Now, people are going to ask me, why do I think WWE put Shane McMahon in the Survivor Series match? Oh, I could tell you why I think. To lead to another storyline. Maybe this will lead to Brock Lesnar giving another fucking F5 to Shane McMahon at Survivor Series. I don't know. Maybe this.
I sure hope not. Because I really don't want to see Shane McMahon versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. They don't always, because the reason why is because they had Shane versus Undertaker gimmick match. I get it. Gimmick match can sell to a certain audience demographic, but I was really disappointed in that Taker Shane match. That match sucked, and it didn't matter the next day. The only thing good was Shane jumping off the cell in that match. That was a terrible match. It felt like it meant nothing. And that is my least favorite WrestleMania 32. So when I hear Shane McMahon wants to fight Brock in a gimmick match, I'm not that excited about it. I'd rather see Brock Lesnar take on Goldberg and maybe in the rubber match or Cesaro or somebody like that. I mean, I don't want to see Brock Lesnar wasted at Mania on fucking Shane McMahon. What you think about it? You think that'll happen or a gimmick match? Or I'm just not a fan of that.
I'm very disappointed that they're pushing Shane in more than one thing. It's kind of like when Vince started out being the authority figure, getting interfered. Now Shane doesn't have to worry as much as Vince did because Vince ran the company. Vince had a lot going on when he had that storyline during the Monday Night Wars. Shane is just an on-air talent. That's all he is. He's not anything tied in with WWE whatsoever other than a talent. So I can understand if they're wanting to use him, if they want to use him in storylines within SmackDown, but I don't agree and keep putting him in gimmick matches to happen. I agree with you about the match as far as The Undertaker and Shane. I feel too that he did his job. Shane was to do the high spot. The Undertaker was to be the slow, methodical, technical wrestling, basic wrestling moves. Shane was the one picked to do the quick high spots and stuff for that, and that's what he did. It was a bad match, but he did what he needed to do. But do I think he needs to be put in these storylines to continue further on even more? No. And I think there's other wrestlers that need to do that. When you start, like DT just said, when you start putting these older guys like Shane in these things instead of trying to continue on building these younger guys, it really puts a hurt in the brand. I mean,
absolutely.
I expect that out of Raw because Raw has all the talent. SmackDown can get known for its wrestling and its younger talent if they just push him. I think it's a bad idea putting Shane or Daniel Bryan in anything relating to these matches because it needs to be their show needs to be about wrestling and talent, and they have young talent. But if they keep doing things like this, adding Shane every now and then what's the purpose of pushing these guys they haven't to begin with?
Yeah. My thing is, I see it like this. Vince McMahon is very old school. He loves gimmick matches all the way back to Bam Bam versus Lawrence Taylor. Vince McMahon was probably sitting in his office with the writers, and he said, it'd be a good idea for a gimmick match, Shane versus Brock Lesnar. That would be a good gimmick match. But you know what? The new generation fans nowadays, we don't want to see that shit. Back in the 90s, Lawrence Taylor, Bam Bam, that was kind of interesting and whatnot. But today, fans love wrestling. They love NXT. They love the wrestling part again. And I think this was just an idea by Vince and Shane. And to them, it might sound good, but to us, no. That doesn't sound good at all. Because Vince is out of touch, like Hillary, out of touch. And he's like, well, yeah, give him a gimmick match, Shane versus the Beast. And I'm like, no, that's a terrible idea. And I hope that doesn't work. I mean, I hope they don't push that. I really do. And if they have a Undertaker versus Shane rematch or something, I'm just gonna shoot. I just ain't gonna watch no more because that's just stupid, man. NXT is hot right now. The women division is hot right now. People are getting back into wrestling. I even like the cruiserweight division, even though the fans don't care, but the reason they don't care is because Vince puts it in the death spot. You don't put the cruiserweights in hour 3, and you're setting it up to fail. But I think this is just old way of thinking versus new way of thinking. People don't want to see a Shane versus Bra. I mean, that is very uninteresting to me. That's all I got to say about that.
This will lead to something else with Shane McMahon. All right. Maybe that's
we'll see what it leads to, man. Hopefully it won't lead to anything, though.
The storyline. Maybe Raw is going to have Shane McMahon attacked, and this will set up Brock Lesnar versus Shane at WrestleMania. I'm not saying that's what it's going to be.
Right.
But it's got to lead to another storyline because it makes no sense for Shane McMahon, if you follow the whole SmackDown storyline with Daniel Bryan and everyone else, to put fucking Shane McMahon in the match. Now look, I'm also going to be honest.
It don't make no sense, but it might be doing it just to make Survivor Series more special. But then again, they already got their main event, so I don't know. I don't have all the answers on this one.
Honest, and again, you listen to the shows. I am a fan of Baron Corbin. There's things that I don't like about him right now that I'd like to see him change. And I think he's starting to.
Yeah, I don't care about Baron Corbin either, but I like his entrance. He's starting to grow on me a little bit. He has some really interesting rhetoric. He came on SmackDown. He said, "I'm not on Team SmackDown. I'm on Team Baron." And AJ Styles said, "What's that mean? What's that? Well, what the hell does that mean?" How he makes sense.
His character a little bit, which is fine, but. Even though I'm a fan of Baron Corbin, if you're going to put me, a gun to my head and say, hey, which one would you rather have in the Survivor Series match, Baron Corbin or Shane McMahon, I probably would choose Shane McMahon. But I also like good storylines that are consistent and make sense. And Daniel Bryan putting Shane McMahon in it makes no sense at all. Plain and simple.
I agree with that, DT. I think you do as well. Bill?
Yeah, I agree with him. I do want to say about Baron Corbin, I think if they put creative enough into him, he's somebody they could use. I mean, he's not going to be heavyweight championship material, but he can be a bigger force than what he is. He's still stuck in the low card status. He was decent in NXT. If they get the storylines right for him, they could. He's another one I could see that could be up to that mid to high card status rather than low to mid status. So it only depends on right now. He's not ready yet. He's by far, but he needs to be interjected more. The more exposure he can get in the shows, the better off he is, because the guys already known and pushed. They really don't need a whole lot of time. It's the guys that don't.
They need to keep him quiet. Baron Corbin, they need to keep Baron Corbin quiet, because when he cut that promo on SmackDown, he said, "I'm on Team Baron." It made him look stupid. And even AJ Styles said, "Oh, it made no sense. Who wrote that?" They need to keep him quiet. Braun Strowman. Hey, Braun Strowman's another guy. They need to keep him quiet. Hey, I love this push with Braun Strowman. He's growing on. I like Braun Strowman now. And to think a year ago, I would not want to see Brock versus Braun Strowman match. But of course, he was a rookie back then, but he still is. But I could actually see that in the future now. Strowman versus a Brock in the future. But Baron Corbin, he's got a good entrance. He's got a good look to him, and be the lone wolf. I think he should go out there, do his thing, and go home. And it's just with the writers. I just hope the writers get it right with him. And I wouldn't have him talk. I love it like Bill Goldberg's first year when he was undefeated. He never talked. He didn't talk. And then when he went to WWE, they made him silly, a little silly. He was still good, but, keep him quiet. And Goldberg on Raw Monday a couple of weeks back did good. He said, Brock, 3 weeks. And then he got interrupted. He didn't utter another word. He didn't say another word. He let his actions speak for him. And that's how they should keep him. Like he was about to talk, but they cut him off because he's not a good promo cutter anyway. I mean, I think he does okay, but yeah, just keep him quiet. But yeah, you think with WWE should WWE have halftime breaks? Let's see what Solid Monster's talking about here, Jason. I think WWE should absolutely have an off season, but it's different. It's different from sports. People, the independent contractors, they need a job all year long and things like that. But it's so hard on the body and everything. But if it was a real sport, yeah, they should have my off season. I'm assuming that's what this is about. But let's see what old Jason talking about here. And props to Don Tony, Kevin Castle. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we do. We do reactions here. But check out the Don Tony and Kevin Castle Show podcast. I love it. I listen to it every week right after Raw. And now we're going to check out some Jason's rhetoric here. He's a solid monster. Search him and subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. Subscribe to TV Tracks. And hell, while you at it, subscribe to us because, we're all in this together. As far as wrestling fans go.
Halftime breaks with the longer 4-hour shows. Do you think it would be a good idea to introduce halftime breaks in the show?
Okay.
Similar to.
I see what he's saying. Yeah, if you have a 4-hour WrestleMania or 4-hour Survivor Series, actually Survivor Series is going to be 5 hours if you count the pre-show. And I do count the pre-show because people are there, blah, blah, blah. But no, I don't think so because if I have to, well, then, it depends. Because you got a 4-hour pay-per-view. I don't want to see no halftime breaks. It's just going to make it longer. But at the same time, it'll give fans there to go to the concession stands, and it'll give them a break and give us a break. And then we won't be so mentally drained when we watch the third and fourth hour. That's the way I see it. But let me see what he says, and we're going to see what you think about it.
What they do during their house shows, which gives the live audience a chance to go to the bathroom or hit the merchandise tables.
See?
And for the people watching live on the network, they can cut to whoever is doing the pre-show and have them discuss the first half of the show, do backstage interviews, etc. If you're asking me, like, what do I want? I wish they would go back to doing the 5-minute intermissions. Remember that? Back in the day? The old late 80s, early 90s pay-per-views. I don't remember what year they stopped doing that. It was probably... it probably was like 1990, 1991, one of those WrestleManias. But they used to have, like, in the middle of the show, Gorilla Monsoon would be like, all right, we're going to take a 5-minute intermission. And they'd have a countdown clock on the screen. You'd hear all the crowd, like arena noise, the ambient noise in the background. But it would just be, you'd be staring at the logo of the show. And 5 minutes would go by. And they'd be back on the air. I wouldn't mind that. Now, they wouldn't do that now. They have that whole pre-show panel. So, yeah, they'd probably it wouldn't be unlike what they already do. Like, they already go back to Renee Young in the middle of these shows, and they talk to Booker T, and they talk to Jerry Lawler, and they talk to Lita, and they give their opinions, and they give their predictions, and then they move on to the next segment. So they
I don't really think that. That's why they used to have diva matches. Piss breaks matches. That's what they do. They'll have a bad match on the card, and that's your halftime show match right there. Hey, the cruiserweights are coming out, or divas are coming out. It used to be. It's a piss break opportunity because you don't want to keep people there longer than necessary. Because they're just going to get burnt. It's nice to get refreshments and stuff, but that's why you have the shit break match or whatever the case. But I just don't think that would work in wrestling. That might work at maybe like a house show if they had an all-day house show or something. Yeah, but nah, I don't really particularly care for that. But anyway, you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, actually I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I feel like that would work. for my opinion, I feel like when you're watching a game or even wrestling, just say wrestling, you hear a lot of people chanting, boring, boring. They're getting tired. They're sitting there. Some may want to leave to go somewhere to do something in the arena, but they can't. There's never a time they don't want to go away, feel like they're losing something. So I feel like making something wrestling related, or even during a break for that, like a 10-minute break or 15, or even something around that, to where they can take a break. Because I think a lot of the fans over time, if you notice, the fans these days are so quick to chant boring, boring, not just the matches, but just having to be there over a course of time. So I think to have something, I can't give you exactly what, but to give someone a little break, even if it don't have to be a long break, just a little break or something, so the fans can like rest or go to the bathroom or get something to eat, come back, feel re-energized. It's kind of like you said, when you go to a long movie where there's an intermission, they give people up 15 minutes or so to go get them a drink, go to the bathroom, come back. Then when you come back, you feel refreshed. You've got something to eat. You can sit there and finish watching the rest of the show.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you were echo. No way. I lose my thought. God damn it. Anyway, it's kind of like if you're watching Batman vs Superman extended edition in the theaters. It's a 3-hour movie. At the 90-minute mark, pause it and say we're going to have a 15-minute break. Sure, but yeah, the fans do get burned out, man. That's why in the third hour they don't care and they chant boring and whatnot. I think these 2 pay-per-view a month is going to be a disaster after a while because it's going to lose their meaning. People are not. That's why the fans were smart asses during Hell in a Cell, because we just had a pay-per-view 2 weeks ago. The same people that watch Raw watch SmackDown and whatnot. It's just too much. But hold on, I kind of like it because you get more out of your WWE network. But too much of one thing is a bad thing. If you make people wait, it's better, yeah. But that's just a tricky, slippery slope there, because you really can't have a halftime break on a 3-hour pay-per-view or whatever the case. But I remember when I went to Monday Night Raw, during the commercial breaks, they would show fun facts on the Titantron and have little sing-alongs and stuff like that, and that was cool. A little break away from it. People go pissed, but yeah, it's just a tricky thing. But I mean, I agree with you, man. But it's just one of them things where it's just hard to find a solution to it.
One solution won't have to be worrying about as many pay-per-views next year as they are cutting down.
Make them longer. Yeah. What they're going to do is in 2017 they're going to cut back on the pay-per-views, but they're going to make the pay-per-views that they have longer. They'll be 4 to 5 hours, and I like that model better, actually. Cut down the pay-per-views a little bit and just make them longer. I kind of like that. Yeah. I like Survivor Series being 4 hours, 5 hours long. I do. I mean, it don't bother me. I guess because I'm not actually sitting there, but yeah, I think that's a better solution. Yeah, because the 2 pay-per-view a month thing was just kind of sad to see, man. Because it's like pay-per-views are just meaningless. Another SmackDown. Another pay-per. Another one. That don't mean nothing. Hell, I mean, it just puts you to sleep after a while. But the ratings don't justify that much content. But it's good for if you're a network subscriber, though. But yeah, man. That's all I got to say about it. Really. But if you're done, we're gonna move on to our main event story. Our main event story here, ladies.
Sounds good to me, man.
Yeah, the main event. The state of WWE is not great, and here's why. We're going to get Jason's thoughts on that, and we're going to put in our dialogue with it. Kind of like when Jill Stein debated Trump and Hillary in that virtual debate. They would pause it and then say, okay, what's your thoughts, Jill? How they intertwine that. So that's basically what this is. So just Jason Solomon's reporting the state of WWE is not great, and here's why. So let's see what the Brian Williams of wrestling has to say, and we're going to give what we have to say. Huh? Yeah.
Let's talk about the best thing on the entire show. Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even there. Can we talk about how great that video package was promoting his match with Goldberg at Survivor Series?
Jason, I wasn't a fan of that, Bill. You don't need Brock there every week and all that. But I was just disappointed. I wanted to see Brock and Goldberg have a face-to-face. But I know keep them apart makes it more special. But I just get tired of Brock because he makes so much money and he comes to the ring and he just stands there. But you know what? He's still the most over guy in the company, just about. But I have my ups and downs with Brock. But I totally get why they did the video package. But I thought Goldberg would be on Raw more often. But I don't think it's Goldberg. I think it's WWE because Stone Cold has said several times that, hey, there was an episode of Raw nearby. And I called up Vince. I said, hey, Vince, you want Austin to show up on Raw? And Vince said, we don't have anything for you. You know, so Goldberg could have been like, hey, I'll be on Raw every week leading up to it. And Vince could have been like, well, we don't have nothing for you. You know, but and plus, you know, the nostalgic feeling would wear off. But yeah, anyway, let's get to what Solomonster's saying before I get cut off here.
That was awesome. Talked about their match at WrestleMania 20. He said he didn't give two shits about wrestling at the time because he knew he was leaving. He was going to go try out for the NFL. He begged Goldberg's.
That's the thing about Goldberg. I mean, Brock. I don't like Brock as a person about what he says on the wrestling business. I don't give a shit about it, blah, blah, blah. But I really don't care. When he gets in the ring, he's playing a character. He's just not one of the boys. But for what he does, you know, he's all right. He's a good character. He's an over character. And a couple of years ago when he broke the streak, I was so mad because I said he's not one of the boys. Why'd you give it to him? But at the end of the day, it's the wrestling company. It's just a business. All we care about is money and profit. But it's all good. I'm over that now. I don't care anymore. But yeah, Brock. You know what? If I was Brock, I'd do the same fucking thing. I mean, you know, I would just, you know, collecting paychecks and just do what they tell me to do. And you ain't got to do much.
Wife and his 10-year-old son not to watch the pay-per-view, stay at home, and hopefully your husband returns. And then he pauses and he says, hopefully. Magnificent. I love this. And they had a separate video for Goldberg, which was also very good. But this was just great. It was great because I believed every word that he said.
Yeah.
I believe every word that you could have Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, anyone else on the roster, you know, cut that same promo. And it would be like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, whatever. When Brock says it, you believe it. I'd say there's a pretty damn good chance Goldberg really does get hurt in that match. Okay, I mean, look, if The Rock goes away for 8 years, comes back and tears multiple muscles in matches.
Yeah, Goldberg's definitely going to get hurt, man. I don't know if it'd be severe or not, but about The Rock, yeah, The Rock came back WrestleMania 28. He pulled a couple of muscles or whatever. Then the next year, 29, he pulled everything. You're just gonna pull muscles and get hurt easy if you ain't been in that ring in a long ass time. It's inevitable. You can't really stop it, man. And Brock, he's kind of stiff. Brock is stiff, man. And it's like, you know, they want Stone Cold to come back and fight Brock. I said Stone Cold's got spinal stenosis or whatever. He's got a bad neck. And what does Brock do? He does a Suplex City. I don't want to see Stone Cold in the Suplex City because that would just scare me, man, because of his neck. You know, it's not safe. And but as far as I know, Goldberg don't have any, you know, neck issues or anything like that. But you never know what can happen.
With John Cena, and you could talk about, you know, how something like that happens and what he may or may not have been doing. What do you think the chances are that Goldberg, who's a lot older than The Rock was when he came back, right? Rock was closer to 40, Goldberg's closer to 50, hasn't stepped in the ring in like 12 years, and his very first opponent back, this ain't no warm-up match, his first opponent back is Brock Lesnar. What do you think the chances are that he's going to leave that ring unscathed? I fear for the man's safety.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, because you bring, like, for example, you bring Stone Cold Steve Austin back for a match. The best thing to do with Steve is put him in a tag team match or something like that. Even Sting, you bring Sting back, you put him in there with Triple H. Why? Because Triple H is safe. Triple H will take care of him. But man, you know, I'm just saying it's not. You're going to be injury prone. It's like I'd rather see Goldberg going there with like a Randy Orton, because Randy Orton is soft. He'll take care of him in the ring, like a Randy Savage. He'll take care of you. But you know, people don't want to see. You know, Goldberg, Brock. It's just a money match. It's just a money match. It just so happens that Brock is a beast, and you know he's stiff, man. You know.
But this was an example of when WWE really wants to, they can really pump out some great stuff. I mean, I had a lot of people who were asking me, like on Facebook, what I thought about what Colin Cowherd said. And I'm no fan of Colin Cowherd. I think he's an asshole. And, you know, generally he's just very antagonistic to wrestling fans. He's always calling them booger eaters and just generally showing them no respect. And I really don't have any respect for him. But I get that's his shtick, and that's what he does to keep himself relevant.
Yeah, I heard that asshole. He's always on Twitter insulting wrestling fans, man. In the future, when we do wrestling news, we got to play some Watt Culture video, because Watt Culture did a very good video talking top 10 things you do not say to wrestling fans. And that was one of them. You don't call us booger eaters. You don't call it stupid and shit like that. It's just a form of entertainment, man. Anybody that watches wrestling likes it, just about, in some capacity.
I don't care for him, but they linked to a segment on his show. I guess he must be a big UFC fan. He's a big Conor McGregor mark, and he was talking about the UFC show at Madison Square Garden coming up this weekend. And he was making a comparison from boxing to MMA to wrestling, and how boxing is dead, MMA has replaced it. Wrestling is dead, MMA has replaced it. And he was going through some of the things that.
Oh, bullshit. I don't agree with that, man. If anything, MMA is getting stale. But by the way, ladies and gentlemen, while you're here, go ahead and give us a subscription. This is mine and Bill Mack's video here. It's 50-50. It's like I'm Don Tony, he's Kevin Castle. You know, right now we're streaming on Bill Mack's channel. This will be on my channel too soon. But Bill Mack, he does news. He does political stories, weird news, and wrestling news. And that's what he does on his channel, if you're interested. On my channel, I do pretty much the same thing minus the weird news. But what I do is I do politics, my main thing, and then I do in other news, and which includes wrestling, video games, and stuff like that. But don't you just hate people that are ignorant to wrestling? I just ignore them, Bill. And I think MMA is dying too. They can't say that. Wrestling is actually, the ratings are not good, but based on ad revenue and 3 hours and stuff, they're making more money than they ever made. Wrestling's very successful. It's not as hot as it was in the 90s, sure, but it's a very successful business. They do make profits from that. They have plenty of investors. And the guy saying that is just ignorant, man. You know, don't you hate it when you have somebody that says, oh, you watch wrestling, that fake crap? Now I just laugh at it, but I mean, no, you know what I'm talking. You ever had that happen? I'm sure you have.
Well, I know what you're saying. I like wrestling. I think when the MMA is this. MMA is supposedly real. Okay. And wrestling is, quote, by like Colin Cowherd, and I know Colin Cowherd very well, is fake. But the thing, what they realize to tell you is wrestling tells a story, and it will give you the entertainment value, what it's worth. You want a 3-hour show, you're going to get a 3-hour show. The MMA is not like that. MMA is reality. If you have 5 matches on the card, and they're supposed to go 5 rounds, but you have a submission in all 5 in first round of all 5 matches, you're going to be an hour and a half short of entertainment. It goes by so quick. It doesn't tell a story within itself. You just have 2 people going one-on-one.
You know what?
That's cool, that like the realism part of it, which I understand. But those that like the entertainment value of watching it, which is what wrestling is entertainment and a sports setting. It basically tells a story along with the athleticism in it. That's why I think wrestling is popular, will always be popular. MMA, sure, MMA took a long time to get where it is now. If you look back at the old UFC ones with Ryan Sheik, Ken Shamrock, and Dan Severn, they used to wrestle like underground cages and stuff when they used to put their shows out on VHS. So wrestling to me is more bang for your buck than what MMA is.
Okay, I got two quick thoughts before I lose them. I'm gonna let you and Jason have the floor. Just let me say this. Why not enjoy both? Okay, why not enjoy both? They're both different. You know, wrestling's predetermined, but you're going to get bang for your buck. UFC is supposedly realistic, like you said, and you pay good money and you're paying for the unknown, which is very attractive, which is very good. I say, why not like both? A lack of understanding is why somebody will be ignorant to either one of them. Now, if I was a UFC fan only and I wanted to check out wrestling, I say, you know what? You know, I'm paying $10 for a pay-per-view or whatever, or let's just use the old price. I'm paying $50, $60 for a WWE pay-per-view tonight. I know it's predetermined, but I don't know who's going to win, and at least I'll get duration. At least I'll get some good competition tonight. That's the way I would look at it if I was just a UFC fan wanting to check out wrestling. I'm like, well, I know it's fake, but so is reality TV, and we don't know the outcome here. And it's like Goldberg and Brock, man. We know it's fake. We know they're friends, but I look forward to the storyline of it. And it's kind of like same thing with politics. Politics is smoke and mirrors, but I watch it like a soap opera half the time just to see how we will get there. The Walking Dead is fake. It's just theater, and but it's good theater. Then I just want to give those two quick thoughts about that. If I was a UFC guy, I would just be like, you know what? It's fake, but I'll get a longer match. I'll get a good, long, competitive match, and I don't know who's going to win, so it makes it interesting. And to me, in my opinion, wrestling is more entertaining than MMA. But I like MMA too. I love Zen martial arts. I love all that stuff. It's really interesting. It's different. It's two completely different things. Because I love my karate movies. I love that stuff. But when I watch those, I don't think about wrestling. It's two different things, and they're both good things. And that's just all I got to say about it. So I'm gonna let you have the floor, Bill, you and Jason, because that's pretty much all I got to say about that, man. About the people, the haters out there that hate on wrestling. They're just ignorant to it, fanboys.
Mm-hmm.
Have killed off boxing and killed off wrestling, and he made some valid points. I'll give him that. He was talking about, look at the bringing back Goldberg, and they're bringing back this guy and that guy, and guys from the Attitude Era, and they can't match the excitement and the realism of UFC. And I agree with actually much of that. I think that there is no excuse for wrestling to be in the doldrums that it's in right now. I mean, look, there's a lot of great stuff going on in wrestling. I don't want to paint this picture like it's all doom and gloom. I mean, there's a lot of great wrestling out there, and there's a lot of good stuff, but maybe it's just overexposure. Maybe there's just too much of it. Maybe it's that you watch 3 hours every Monday night, and that really very negatively colors your view of how wrestling is, because you're sitting there watching a boring show, and you're thinking, man, this is terrible. How did we get to this point? But I don't want that to, ruin some of the good stuff we see on SmackDown and NXT and stuff like that. But the fact is, wrestling is not hot. Wrestling is not hot the way it used to be. I know they're making money and stuff, but you either.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not as good as it used to be, but they're still, like I said earlier, they're still making a profit. That's why I disagree with that dude on Twitter. He's trying to say, well, it's not a profitable business. It's low. That's not true. It's still a very profitable business. Their video games still sell very well. They're still profitable. Now the matches, I mean, that's opinions and stuff like that. Of course, it's not as hot as it was. But that was just a one-time thing in the 90s. In the 80s, it's about as popular as it was in the 80s, maybe. Around that time, I don't know. But you're going to have good matches and bad matches. But the wrestling fans are still there, and it's still good to watch. Worth checking out.
Feel it or you don't. And I think you would be hard
I
pressed.
just wanted to make the point that it's not failing as a business model. It's not failing. It's not going anywhere.
To find anybody who watches wrestling week
People will always love wrestling. They'll always love a circus. They always will love it.
to week, especially if you watch WWE, who would say, man, wrestling is super hot, man. It's so exciting and it's so hot. No, it's not. And he's right about that. You know, I mean,
Well, he might be right about that, but as many people, I stick with wrestling through the good times and the bad times. I was there in 94, 95 when WWF was complete shit. I was there. I stuck with it. Same thing with TNA and their fan base. The TNA loyalists, they stick with it, good or bad. And Jason would agree with that. And Bill, you do too. We stick with it when it's good and bad. You know, we just keep watching.
Excitement that used to be there, that must-see TV feel to the shows, that's gone. That is gone. It may never come back. And, you know, they have all these pay-per-views and all these main events that nobody really cares about, that it's the same shit over and over again. And so his point is you've got somebody like a McGregor in UFC who's this big draw, who knows – I said it earlier when I was talking about, you know, what happened last night. I mean, I saw his fight and I saw him afterwards, and the guy gets it. He knows exactly what he's doing. He gets it. That's why he makes as much money and he's as successful as he is, because he understands that. And I think he fit in very well in wrestling. But in a way, I almost wouldn't want WWE to get their hands on him, because I don't think they would know what to do with him. I mean, they have given me zero indication that they would even know what to do with a guy like that. I mean, look at their baby faces on this show. Who is there to even get behind? Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar ain't no baby face. But how do you watch that video package and watch this guy and how he carries himself and not root for him? I know people think his matches now are boring. It's just suplex after suplex. Yeah. I agree. I mean, it's getting freaking old. Yeah. I'm not going to debate you on that, but there's a certain aura that this guy has that nobody else has on that roster. And I'm watching this video package on Monday night, which, you know, he didn't even say much. He's just kind of sitting there, Heyman staring at him. It's not like the guy was moving mountains, but when that thing was over, I was hyped. You know, I couldn't wait to see Goldberg and Lesnar at Survivor Series. And that is the match I'm looking forward to the most. I mean, it really is. You know, I mean, they're making this card. They're trying to make this card important with all the stipulations and stuff. But that is the match that I'm looking forward to the most. They got me completely hyped up with those two video packages on Monday night because they made it feel like a real fight. They tapped into a certain realism that absolutely nothing else on this show has. There is nothing else on Raw that feels real. Nothing. Zip, zilch, nada. It feels like a TV show, which it is. But you've got to be able to make the people feel like, you know, hey, these two people hate each other, or hey, I want to see these guys beat the crap out of each other. And they just don't do a good enough job of doing that. And that's one of the reasons why wrestling is down from where it used to be. And if you're a UFC fan, if you like MMA and wrestling and you're looking at the two objectively side by side, and you're looking at a guy like Conor McGregor going into this fight last night, and you're looking at, you know, him cutting those promos and getting everybody all hyped up for the fight, and you compare it to what they're doing now with Stephanie McMahon on TV yelling at all the baby faces and, you know, you guys you're representing Team Raw and you better do a good job or you're all going to be fired, and slapping people left and right, and Mick Foley out there hooting and hollering at people for God knows what reason. And, you know, you're just like, I don't know. It's almost like sometimes I look at some of that stuff and I'm like, why do I even watch this? You know, it's like, where is the excitement? Where did it go? Where did the guys like Austin and Rock back in the day, these guys would walk around like they were a couple of badasses and you bought into it. Somebody sent me a clip. They emailed me a clip. I'm going to probably put it up on Twitter when I'm done here. I had completely forgotten about this. They sent me a note about the top 9 promo countdown that I just wrapped up and how much they loved it. And they said, you might want to take a look at this promo as well. And it was a segment, I think, from the Go Home Raw. I think it was the week before SummerSlam in '98 at the Garden. I think that was the Highway to Hell show. And they have Steve Austin riding out in a hearse with AC/DC playing in the background. He pulls a casket out from the back of the hearse. He opens the casket, which I guess had beer on ice. He pulls out a beer. He stands on the top of the hearse. He's drinking beer. And you've got Highway to Hell playing in the background. And the place is going nuts. And I'm watching this, and I got goosebumps. And I'm thinking, how the hell did we go from that to this? Like, what the hell happened? I was just blown away. It was so cool, right? That's what wrestling is missing. We need people, we need stuff, we just need things to be cool. And I think you can make that work, I think, with some of the people they have. They got a lot of really talented guys. I like a lot of those guys. But again, what they're doing, what they have them doing, and the verbiage and all the scripted bullshit and everything. I just talked about that comedy segment with all the tag teams on Monday that would never end. Back in the day, it was like you didn't want those segments to end. Now you can't wait for them to end. So you know what? I'll give Colin Cowherd some credit because I think he makes a very good point. But what this shows is that WWE has the capacity to tap into that and to do things like this more often. It doesn't always have to involve Brock. I mean, generally it tends to. But I'm watching this video and I'm like, this feels like a fight. And maybe that shit comes down to the difference maybe between sports and sports entertainment and what sells more. And I know WWE is doing record revenues and profits and all that stuff. So they're making money because they've got so many different ways now to make money. But when it comes to their TV week to week, the ratings keep going down. People, I'm doing these polls every single week, and people are voting 30% thumbs up, 40% thumbs up, 60% thumbs down, 70% thumbs down. And you ask yourself, why? There's got to be a reason why. It can't be this hard to make these shows more interesting and more exciting, whether they're 2 hours, 3 hours. It is what it is. It ain't going to change anytime soon. So what do? Is it a problem of Vince? Is it a problem of the writers? Is it a problem of the talent? Is it a combination of all three? But I watch this and I'm like, I'm amped up for this. I'm amped up to see 50-year-old Bill Goldberg against Brock Lesnar, a guy who shows up 4 times a year in the main event of Survivor Series. Meanwhile, I see all these other guys week after week after week after week on TV, and I could give 2 shits. I don't care. Who cares? Who cares if Team SmackDown beats Team Raw? Who cares if Team Raw beats Team SmackDown? Make me care. Give me a reason to care. Give me a reason to want to see these guys beat the hell out of each other. Create some personal issues. Triple H comes out. He pedigrees Seth Rollins on Raw, which was a hell of an angle and a hell of a swerve, and that was kind of exciting, right? That came out of nowhere. And then they never followed up on it. They've mentioned it here and there, Triple H. We haven't seen him. And it's been, 2 months now? So what are they doing? They're waiting. They're going to drag this out until WrestleMania. In the meantime, they've done nothing to keep our interest level up about this angle. One day, Triple H will just show up again, and they'll pick up where they left off. I'm sorry, but that's shitty storytelling. That is lazy, shitty storytelling. We have heard nothing from this guy in the meantime. Yep. We're just left hanging because we got to get to WrestleMania. We've got to get to that big WrestleMania match between Triple H.
Yeah, man, the fucking writing has been so sloppy. I hate when they drop a storyline, pick it up later. It's just sloppy.
And Seth Rollins. And I guarantee you when that match rolls around, I probably won't care about that either. It's like it's almost
by the time it gets there, you don't care anymore.
Like they're stalling for time. You don't want to waste people's time. You want to give them a reason to stay engaged and stay interested and keep watching. And they just don't do a good job of that. They just don't do a good enough job of that. And I think that was the point that I think he was making. Again, he doesn't make a lot of points that I agree with, but he's right about that. And boxing is, look, you'll get a Floyd Mayweather fight every now and then that does 2 million buys, and I think he's retired now, so what's boxing going to do? I don't know. I'm not a big boxing expert. I don't know if there's any big draw on the horizon who's going to replace him. So, yeah, I think it's safe to say that MMA has kind of bumped boxing over. But the thing with MMA and pro wrestling is this. MMA, you have no control over what happens. Conor McGregor can have a big fight, and the day before he could go down with an injury. He suffers a sparring injury. He gets cut open, and now the fight is off. And now you're screwed because your big pay-per-view main event just went bye-bye. Or you could have a pay-per-view with a great lineup on paper, and it turns out to be a dud. You got guys just laying on top of each other. They're afraid to punch each other. It's a boring fight, or the fight ends quickly, and the show is just shit. It's just total garbage. With wrestling, you control your destiny. You book the show the way you want to book the show. Now guys get hurt, true. That can happen in wrestling too. But you have control over the entire thing. It's whatever story you want to tell. Yeah. The story can be as exciting or as boring as you want it to be. And
it's kind of like people say, you know what, I'm not a fan of boxing, but I love the Rocky series.
That's the thing about wrestling. More often than not, they miss the mark, in WWE, but they control their own destiny in a way that MMA can't. So why is it so hard for them to do that? I don't get it. I just don't understand. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are Team B, and that was wrestling news. Subscribe for more and stick with us. With that said, co-host Bill, you have any closing thoughts? I think Jason summed it up pretty well, but do you have any closing thoughts on that before we head out? Or?
Not too many to make, dude. We'll just cut it short now.
Yeah, man, I appreciate this. Team B is back together. We're going to bring you guys wrestling news, and I enjoyed it, man. We're going to keep you subscribing. You'll be updated with political news, gaming news, and wrestling news, and whatever else we can find. You're at the right place if you want to be up to date. If you need your news fix, we're already here. Take care, everybody.